The United States and Canada have always been close trading partners, but things have become strained lately. The US recently placed tariffs on steel and aluminum coming from Canada. Tariffs are like extra taxes on goods from other countries. The US says these tariffs are needed to protect American jobs and industries. They argue that cheaper steel and aluminum from other countries are hurting American businesses. President Trump believes these tariffs will encourage companies to buy American-made products. However, these tariffs have caused a lot of concern in Canada. Canada is the largest supplier of steel and aluminum to the US. These new tariffs make Canadian products more expensive for American buyers. This could hurt Canadian businesses and lead to job losses. Canadian industries, especially those producing steel and aluminum, are worried. These industries depend heavily on trade with the US. The new tariffs could mean they sell less to the US, leading to lower profits. For example, Canada's auto industry uses a lot of steel and aluminum. If the cost of these materials goes up, it will cost more to build cars in Canada. This could make Canadian cars less competitive compared to cars made in other countries. The tariffs have also created uncertainty. Businesses like to plan for the future, but the tariffs make it hard to know what will happen next. This uncertainty can make businesses hesitant to invest and grow. Canada has strongly criticized the tariffs. The Canadian government has vowed to protect Canadian jobs and businesses. They have promised to take retaliatory measures, which means they might put tariffs on American goods coming into Canada. However, Canada also wants to find a negotiated solution. Canadian officials have been talking to their American counterparts to try to resolve the issue. Both countries understand that a trade war would hurt everyone involved. In the meantime, Canada is also looking at other options. This includes strengthening trade relationships with other countries and exploring new markets for Canadian products. This trade dispute has led many in Canada to rethink the country's dependence on the US. For a long time, the US has been Canada's biggest trading partner, but the tariffs have shown that this relationship can be unpredictable. As a result, there is a growing sense that Canada needs to diversify its trade relationships. This means building stronger ties with other countries, particularly in Europe and Asia. It also means looking for new markets for Canadian goods and services. The tariffs have undoubtedly put a strain on Canada-US relations. However, they have also presented Canada with an opportunity to chart a new course in international trade. Only time will tell what the long-term impact of this trade dispute will be.
On February 1, 2025, the world watched as President Trump dropped a bombshell on the global trade landscape. In a move that sent shockwaves through financial markets and sparked fears of a full-blown trade war, Trump announced sweeping new tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China. Citing national security concerns, drug trafficking, and illegal immigration, the president invoked the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to justify his actions. This decision marked a significant escalation in Trump's protectionist trade agenda, leaving many to wonder about the long-term consequences for the American economy and its trading partners. The tariffs set to take effect on February 4th targeted a wide range of goods. Mexico and Canada faced a hefty 25% levy on all imports, while China was hit with a 10% tariff on most goods. Additionally, a 10% tariff was slapped on Canadian energy products, further straining relations with America's northern neighbor. To tighten the screws, the administration also closed the de minimis loophole, which previously allowed tax-free shipments under $800. The announcement followed weeks of speculation and warnings from economists and business leaders about the potential fallout from a trade war. Despite these concerns, the Trump administration pressed ahead, arguing that the tariffs were necessary to protect American jobs and reduce the trade deficit. However, critics were quick to point out that tariffs are essentially taxes on American consumers and businesses, and that the move would likely lead to higher prices, job losses, and economic uncertainty. Mexico, a country already grappling with economic challenges and a complex relationship with its northern neighbor, found itself squarely in the crosshairs of Trump's tariff offensive. The 25% levy on all Mexican imports, justified by the administration's stated goal of curbing the flow of fentanyl and stemming illegal immigration, sent shockwaves through the Mexican economy. The Mexican government, led by President Claudia Sheinbaum, was quick to condemn the tariffs as unjustified and harmful to both economies. Sheinbaum vehemently denied allegations of government complicity in drug trafficking and emphasized the strong economic partnership between the two nations. In a defiant move, Mexico announced retaliatory tariffs on a range of US products, signaling its willingness to engage in a tit-for-tat trade war. The tariffs threatened to disrupt deeply integrated supply chains that had developed over decades under NAFTA and its successor, the USMCA. The agricultural sector, heavily reliant on trade with the United States, braced for significant losses as tariffs threatened to make Mexican produce less competitive in the American market. Key exports like avocados, tomatoes and berries faced an uncertain future, potentially leading to price hikes for American consumers. The impact of the tariffs extended beyond economics, further straining already tense relations between the two countries. The move threatened to undermine cooperation on critical issues such as immigration, border security, and combating drug trafficking. As the trade war escalated, it cast a long shadow over the future of US-Mexico relations. Canada, long considered a close ally and trading partner of the United States, found itself caught in the crossfire of Trump's trade war. The 25% tariff on all Canadian imports, coupled with an additional 10% levy on energy products, sent shockwaves through the Canadian economy and strained relations between the two countries. The Canadian government, led by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, expressed deep disappointment and frustration with the Trump administration's decision. Trudeau characterized the tariffs as unjustified and harmful to both economies, emphasizing the integrated nature of the US-Canada trade relationship. In a swift and decisive response, Canada announced retaliatory tariffs on $155 billion worth of US goods. The tariffs targeted a wide range of US products, including agricultural goods, steel, aluminum, and consumer products. The move was carefully calibrated to inflict maximum political pain on key constituencies in the United States, putting pressure on the Trump administration to reconsider its actions. The energy sector, a cornerstone of the Canadian economy, faced particular uncertainty as the tariffs threatened to disrupt the flow of oil and gas between the two countries. Canada is the largest supplier of crude oil to the United States, and the tariffs threatened to push up energy prices for American consumers and businesses. China, no stranger to trade spats with the United States, found itself once again in the crosshairs of Trump's protectionist policies. The 10% tariff on most Chinese goods marked an escalation of the ongoing trade war between the world's two largest economies, raising concerns about a global economic slowdown. The Chinese government, while expressing disappointment with the Trump administration's decision, maintained a measured response, at least initially. China filed a complaint with the World Trade Organization, or WTO, challenging the legality of the tariffs and threatened unspecified countermeasures. However, as the trade war dragged on, China retaliated with tariffs on a range of US goods, including agricultural products, energy, and automobiles. The tariffs threatened to disrupt complex global supply chains that relied on Chinese manufacturing. Electronics, clothing, footwear, and a vast array of consumer goods faced potential price hikes as tariffs increased the cost of importing goods from China. The trade war between the United States and China had far-reaching implications for the global economy. The uncertainty surrounding trade policy and the potential for escalating tariffs dampened business investment and consumer confidence, casting a shadow over global growth prospects. Section 5. The price we pay. American households brace for impact. As the tariff war escalated, American households braced for impact. Economists warned that the tariffs would translate into higher prices for a wide range of consumer goods, from groceries and clothing to automobiles and electronics. The closure of the de minimis loophole meant that even small online purchases from China would be subject to the new tariffs. Estimates varied, but some analysts projected that the tariffs could cost the average American household hundreds of dollars per year in increased costs. The tariffs came at a time when inflation was already a concern for many families, eroding purchasing power and putting a strain on household budgets. The agricultural sector, already grappling with low commodity prices and trade disruptions, faced further uncertainty as retaliatory tariffs from Mexico, Canada, and China targeted key agricultural exports. Farmers, already struggling with low profitability and rising debt levels, faced the prospect of losing access to key export markets, potentially leading to farm closures and job losses in rural communities. Section 6 Trade Statistics tell the tale. A look at 2023. To understand the potential impact of the 2025 tariffs, it's crucial to examine the trade relationship between the United States, Mexico, Canada, and China. In 2023, the United States imported goods worth $467 billion from Mexico, $401 billion from China, and $377 billion from Canada, highlighting the interconnectedness of these economies. On the export side, the United States shipped $322 billion worth of goods to Canada, $309 billion to Mexico, and $131 billion to China. These figures underscore the significance of these trading relationships for American businesses and workers. The tariffs threaten to disrupt these well-established trade flows, potentially leading to higher prices for consumers, supply chain disruptions for businesses, and job losses in sectors heavily reliant on trade. Section 7. Voices from the trenches, reactions to the tariff storm. The announcement of the tariffs sparked immediate and widespread condemnation from the business community, economists, and consumer advocacy groups. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a powerful lobbying group representing American businesses, warned that the tariffs would lead to higher prices, supply chain disruptions, and job losses. The National Association of Manufacturers, another influential business group, echoed these concerns, arguing that the tariffs would disproportionately harm small and medium-sized manufacturers. The group urged the Trump administration to reconsider its actions and pursue a negotiated solution to trade disputes. Consumer advocacy groups such as the Consumer Federation of America and Public Citizen expressed concerns that the tariffs would lead to higher prices for essential goods, disproportionately impacting low-income households. These groups called on Congress to exercise its oversight authority and rein in the president's tariff powers. Section 8. Navigating the Tariff Maze, Consumer Survival Strategies. As the tariff war escalated and prices began to rise, American consumers were left to navigate the uncertainty and find ways to mitigate the impact on their wallets. While avoiding price increases entirely was unlikely, there were steps consumers could take to minimize the pain. One strategy was to prioritize needs over wants. With discretionary income likely to shrink as prices rose, consumers could focus on essential purchases, such as groceries, housing, and transportation, while cutting back on non-essential items, such as entertainment and dining out. Another strategy was to shop around and compare prices. With tariffs impacting different goods and retailers to varying degrees, consumers could potentially find better deals by comparing prices online and at different stores. Section 9. Trump's tariff legacy, a pattern of protectionism. The 2025 tariffs were not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of Trump's long-standing protectionist trade agenda. Throughout his presidency, Trump had repeatedly employed tariffs as a tool to try to reduce trade deficits, protect American jobs, and bring back manufacturing to the United States. Trump's view of tariffs as a negotiating tactic and a means to achieve economic dominance had far-reaching consequences. His actions sparked trade wars with China, Mexico, Canada, and the European Union, disrupting global supply chains, raising prices for consumers, and injecting uncertainty into the global economy. The long-term consequences of Trump's tariff legacy remain to be seen. However, one thing is certain: his aggressive use of tariffs has reshaped the global trade landscape, leaving a legacy of uncertainty, distrust, and protectionism.